So as we know, yesterday we have been discussed simple ions and compound ions. So if we take the simple ions, for example, like sodium. So sodium is a what? Metals will form positive ions and non-metals will form negative ions. So metals, for example, if we take sodium, will lose one electron and it will form sodium plus. So same way, chlorine, non-metal, will gain one electron and it will turn into chlorine minus. So like this we have been studied, all the metals will form positive ions. What is the positive ions means also called as? Anybody can say? Positive ions is called as?
Cations.
Cations. Understand? So same way, all the non-metals will form
anions.
Will form negative ions. They are called as anions. Now this is as what? This is the ions of an element. Yes or no? So simple ions, this is called as what we should call? Simple ions. Correct? Now same way, if you observe compound ions or compound ions also we can call it as what? Compound ions also we can call it as compound ions also we can call it as what? Today also I said, starting itself, polyatomic. Don't use all, you shut your mouth and you sit here. All nonsense really. Polyatomic ions we should call it as. So compound ions also we can call it as polyatomic ions. Now here I already taught you yesterday, you check all the non-metals will form negative ions except one. What is that? Except one and only hydrogen alone will form positive ions. Is it yes or no? Along with that, one and only, if you observe, compound ions also. So compound ions means what? Polyatomic ions. So every polyatomic ion, all the polyatomic ions are negative charge or positive charge? Polyatomic ions, if you observe, all are negative charge only. Understanding? So what is the examples of polyatomic ions? Anybody can say? Carbonate, CO3, nitrate, NO2, phosphate, PO4, or sulfate, SO4. See, examples I'm asking, nobody will say. You see, you are silent. How silent you are? Nitrate, NO3, I say I written here NO2, but you are not saying. So nitrate is NO3. What is the valencies of this one? Everybody should tell. Yesterday I taught you, correct? What is the valencies? Nitrate, what is the valency? Nitrate is minus. What is the carbonate valency? What is the carbonate valency? Carbonate is 2 minus. Phosphate valency 3 minus. Sulfate valency 2 minus. So if you observe, all the polyatomic ions are what valency? Negative valency. Understand? So one and only polyatomic ion which is having positive valency. What is that? Which is having positive valency. What is that?
Hydrogen.
Ammonium is the only one which is having, understanding, a polyatomic ion which is having a positive charge. Polyatomic ion, only positive charge. Remaining all polyatomic ions are what? Negative charge only.
Negative charge.
That is what. But now you are saying, Ray Maunisha, don't make me frustrated. I'm saying nobody is studying. Simply people are attending and forgetting. Again the same thing. So I'm shouting also. You people are not saying which is the one and only positive atomic ion, polyatomic ion. You people are saying only that girl is saying. So what is that? Ammonium. So yesterday I taught you one more thing also. Ammonia. What is ammonia? NH3. Understanding? NH3 is called as ammonia. So ammonia is what? By sharing electrons, not by donating electrons. What is this? By sharing electrons. So by sharing electrons, which compound we should call? By sharing electrons, which compound we should call? Covalent compounds. What is that? Covalent compounds. You be silent. Always you be silent. Don't speak. So by donating electrons, by donating or receiving electrons, what we should call? Donating or receiving electrons? Receiving electrons. Receiving electrons. What we should call? Please respond. Ionic compounds. What is that? Ionic compounds. Okay. So that is you should remember. Here Ions will form. Ions will form. But here what will form? Molecules will form. What will form? Molecules will form. That is the difference between them. So ionic compounds means by donating or by receiving electrons, but in covalent compounds by sharing electrons. That is why they will form molecules of compounds. Molecules of compounds.
Compound.
Here ions will form. That is, you should remember. Okay guys, so molecules of compound, if you want to find the atomic mass, what we should call? Molecular mass. What we should call? Molecular mass. Understand? So atomic mass of these elements present in these compounds is called as molecular mass. But in the coming of ionic compounds, what we should call? Formulae mass unit.
Formulae mass unit.
Formulae mass unit. This is what till here you are having for exam. Formulae mass unit. That is what you have to remember. So this both are same, but here we should call it as for ionic compounds. We should
Ionic compound.
formulae mass unit. Covalent compound we should call it as molecular mass. Understand, Darun? Tamil Selvan? At least you remember something. Ma call to Laksha and Manya. Laksha call to Manya and Samaya. And Shruti also. Understand, Ra? Simply every time. Okay. So now let us come to the last concept. Yesterday, what I taught you is in the ECG. What is the full form of ECG? Anybody, please? You forgot already. Very good, Amma. Electroencephalogram. Electroencephalogram. And what is the device name, Pradosh? Let me see. Mauni, sir. Not at all written. Correct, sir? Maitreyan, sir. What is the electro ECG mission, sir? A device which will produce the, what is the device name called as?
Produce rays to check our.
What is the device name I am asking? It is the longest word, one of the longest word in English. I said, what is the device name I am asking? I know that it will check the what is the impulses of brain. That is okay. Nervous system, nervous impulses. That you tell me. What is the device names? Elmukil, Tamil Selvan, Shruti, what is the device name? Electroencephalograph. Okay, you enjoy. Electroencephalograph. You're not even feeling ashamed, you people. Carry on. So now in this ECG, we are using two metals called as sodium and potassium. So when the sodium and potassium metals are passing through the brain cells, then they will cause the nerve impulses. So due to this movement of sodium and potassium, so we can identify, understanding whether there is any alignment. What do you mean by alignment? What is the meaning of alignment? What do you mean by meaning
Any
of
pattern.
injury? Any injury is happening or not, or else what is the functioning of brain? We have to know. We will use this ECG. So we will use the two metals in ECG. What is that? Sodium and
Potassium.
so what is that? What is the mission? And then why I should say? If you are not noted down, then why I should say? So now the graphical report of this electrical activity in different parts of the brain produced by a device. What is the device name called as?
Electroencephalograph.
Electroencephalograph. That is what you have to remember. So now if you understand this, then we are going to study the next concept is called as ionic compounds. So till now, last class I have taught you covalent compounds. What is this? Covalent
compound.
So covalent compounds will form by what? Laksha. Covalent compounds will form by what? Just now also I said. Covalent compounds will form by what? Shruti?
Ions.
Ions.
Ionic.
What are you remembering, guys? Then why I should teach here? Then just now I am saying up you can see covalent compounds is forming by ions. Elmukil? Is it covalent compounds are forming by ions?
Molecular compound.
Then Mamanisha, always you don't give chorus for the Elmukil or somebody, man. You say what you know. So covalent compounds are formed by what?
By sharing.
Molecular compound.
Sharing of electrons. What is that called as Elmukil? This is the only way to study Elmukil. You also. Sharing of electrons. So sharing of electrons means what we should call? Ionic compounds or covalent compounds?
Covalent compound.
Covalent compound.
Covalent compounds. So covalent compounds, what we should call? It is total
Molecular compound.
compounds. What we should call? Molecular
Molecular
mass.
compound.
What we should call? Molecular mass.
Molecular mass.
What is the examples of covalent compounds like CO2, H2O, understand? HCl, this all H2SO4, this all are what? Formed by completely, have you seen? Everything is by non-metals only. Correct or not? Non-metal and non-metal. So covalent compounds will formed by what? Non-metal and
Non-metal and non-metal.
Non-metal.
understanding. So one and only non-metal which will form positive ions. What is that? Only one.
Ammonium.
That is hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Ammonium and hydrogen. Hydrogen is polyatomic pair. So the covalent compounds will form by what? By non-metal and non-metal. What is that? Non-metal and
Non-metal and non-metal.
Non-metal.
by sharing electrons they will form. But if it comes to here, in today's class we are going to study what is that? Ionic compounds. What is that, Ra? Ionic compounds.
Ionic compound.
In ionic compounds, remember always one donor will be there. Means somebody should donate the electrons. One donor.
Donate the
Remember, second one, if somebody is donating, second one what? Somebody should be receiver. Somebody should receive or acceptor, we can say. Acceptor. So this should be there. So now you tell me, basically, who is the donor and who is the acceptor? Metal or non-metal? Who is the donor?
Sir, metal is the donor.
Metals are donors and non-metals
Non-metals
are
are receivers.
acceptors. Non-metals are acceptors. That is, you should remember. So, ionic compounds will form by what? Metals and non-metals. Okay. So, there is no metal and metal will react. No reaction between metal and metal. All of you should remember. Okay. So, metal plus non-metal will react. What it will give, Ra? It will give you ionic compound. What will give you? Ionic compound. Understand? Ra? That is you have to understand. So ionic compounds will formed by what? By formation of ions. By formation of what?
Ions.
By formation of ion. Now, what kind of ions will form? By donating electron, I said.
Donating.
By donating electrons, what ions will form? Maunis will say, you all others you silent. Maunis will say, by donating electrons, what will form, sir? By donating electrons. Positive ions or negative electrons, sir?
Sir, positive, sir.
Yeah. By donating electrons, which ions will form, Ra? Positive ions will form.
Positive
Yes,
ions.
no? By donating electrons. Now, same way, by receiving electrons, what will form?
Negative.
Negative.
Receiving electrons, negative ions will form. So now, other will say, Darun or Prados, you say. So, by donating electrons, who is more? Number of protons. Number of protons are more. Number of protons are more than what? More than? Number of? Solu Prados.
Number of electrons.
Number of electrons. Same way here, Maitrayan. Here what? Receiving electrons means what? Number of protons
Electrons
less than
electrons.
number of electrons. Understand, Darun? Darun sir, negative charge means electrons are more. Positive charge means who is more? Protons are more. Understand, Ra?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is. Now, this is what we should call as ionic compounds. So ionic compounds is what? Ionic compounds which are made up of ions. Understanding, Ra? So by donating or receiving, the atoms will turn into what? Atom by losing or gaining electrons, what we should call? Ions we should call as. What we should call?
Ions.
So atoms, they will turn into what? Ions. How? By lost electrons. By lost electrons or by gain electrons. Do you understand, guys? That is what you have to understand. By lost electrons, positive ions. By gain electrons, negative ions. Any doubt in this? Please ask me. Clear? So now, positively charged ions. What we should call? Elmukil? Positively
Cation.
Cation.
And negatively charged ions, what we should call?
Anion.
These will held together by the strong forces of attractions. That is only we should call it as electrostatic force of attractions. They will hold together. Understanding? So positive and negative will combine together, hold together by the strong forces of attraction. That forces of attraction is only called as electrostatic force of attraction. Force of attraction. Guys, that is how to remember. So ionic compounds, atoms are electrically charged. Yes or no? That is why they are called as ions. Understand, Ra? Please respond me. But
Yes,
in
sir.
compounds, is they are electrically charged? No, they are not
No, sir.
charged. They are forming by what? They are forming by sharing the
Electron.
here by donating or receiving electrons. So covalent compounds will form by what? Will form by what? Only non-metal and
Non-metal.
non-metal. But in ionic compounds, what? One must be
Metal and non-metal.
one, another must
Another must be
non-metal.
non-metal.
So that you have to understand. Is it okay, guys? One must be a donor,
Yes, sir.
another one must be a receiver or acceptor. Are you clear, guys? So what kind of forces
Yes,
are
sir.
present between the ions? Electrostatic.
Electrostatic force of attraction.
So, remember, guys, the forces which hold these ions together in ionic compounds are called as ionic bonds or electrovalent bonds. What we should call? Ionic bonds or electrovalent. So the bond present, like the force which is present between the ions, bond present between ions is called as ionic bond. Very, very important. Or else we can call it as what? Electrovalent bond. What we should call? Electrovalent. Understand, guys? So the bond present between the ionic compounds, ionic bond. Same way the bond present between covalent compound, what we should call? What we should call?
Covalent bond.
Covalent bond.
Covalent.
Understanding?
Covalent
Covalent bond. That is you should remember. So by sharing electrons, which bond will form? MCQ they will ask you, Darun.
Covalent bond.
Covalent
Covalent bond.
By donating or receiving electrons, ionic bond.
Ionic bond.
All of you should remember.
Covalent bond.
Compared to the covalent bonds, ionic bonds are much stronger than covalent bonds, because covalent bonds easily we can break, but ionic bonds very difficult to break, because by donating or sharing a strong electrostatic force of attraction will be created between the ions. So which bonds are much stronger, Mavani sir? Which bonds are much stronger?
Ionic bond.
Ionic bonds are much stronger than covalent bonds. Why they are
Covalent bond.
stronger? Tamil Selvan, Shruti, Mavanis. Why they are very strong? Because they are
Ionic bond is very strong.
receiving electrons. They are forming by what? Donating or
Donating and receiving
electrons.
electrons.
That is the reason they are much stronger than covalent bonds. Understand, Ra, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, let us go with the example. Let me see who will say. So let us, very, very important. So the first well-known example, as we people know that, sodium chloride. What is that? Sodium chloride.
Sodium chloride.
Chloride formula. So sodium chloride, this is the sodium chloride. CHLORID, sodium chloride, you can take. So sodium if you take, so sodium will donate how many electrons? One electron, and it will form sodium
plus
Now,
chloride minus.
will receive one electron, and it will turns into what? Cl minus.
Cl minus.
Right. So if we'll combine this together, what will come? Na1Cl1, which is equals to NaCl. That's all. Do you understand, guys? But you should not write
Yes,
NaCl.
sir.
So this is for our convenient. We are writing NaCl, but actually NaCl is what? Na plus Cl minus. This is
minus.
exact formula of sodium chloride. Understand, Elamukel, Darun? But our convenient
Yes, sir.
not showing the charges. Understanding? But this is the sodium chloride formula. Na plus and chlorine minus. Understand, Ra? Please respond
Yes, sir.
me.
Yes, sir.
You should remember. Next, like that, some ionic compounds I will say. You should identify the ions present in that. Potassium chloride. Anybody can say potassium chloride. Potassium chloride. What is the symbol of potassium?
K.
A.
Potassium.
A, sir.
K, sir.
So K, potassium chloride will lose one electron, will turns into what? K plus. Okay. Now chlorine will gain one electron, will turns into what? Cl minus. So what will come? Potassium chloride.
A plus
KCl.
Cl minus.
Or we can write KCl. So what is the ions present in potassium chloride? K plus and
Cl minus.
Correct?
minus.
Please respond me like that.
Yes, sir.
Present in this everything. Now we will go for formula unit mass of ionic compounds. So later only I will say the chemical formula. Is it okay, guys? Formula unit mass. And later only I will go with the chemical formula. So I know that you may be not understand writing a formula of molecular compounds. So we'll write it, that we'll study in the last concept, as a last concept, because that is the most important one. Definitely will come in the exam and they will ask you. Now we are going to study if it is a covalent compounds, what we should call molecular mass.
Sir,
Yes,
molecular mass.
if it is a ionic compounds, what we should call?
Sir, formula mass unit.
Molecular mass unit. Now formula mass unit. Now let us discuss a few more ionic compounds. Now let me see who will say magnesium oxide. What is the valency? Anybody can say magnesium oxide. You see that and tell me. Magnesium oxide formula is MgO. What is that? MgO. So now how it will form? Magnesium, how many electrons will lose? Check it and tell me. It will lose 2 electrons and it will form what? 2 electrons means Mg2 plus. Correct? Nobody will answer. Next, oxygen, how many electrons will gain L-mokil? Check your notebook and tell me. It will gain also 2 electrons and it will also turns into 2 minus. So what is the MgO formula? Mg2 plus
Mg2 plus
2 minus.
O2 minus.
Right. MgO. MgO. So what is the ions present here? Mg2 plus O2 minus. Okay, guys? Please respond me. Same way.
Sir.
Sir,
Nitrate. What is the formula? Calcium nitrate. Anybody? Calcium nitrate. Nitrate. So nitrate. Calcium means what? Ca.
C.
It means what? Today also I said nitrate. NO3.
NO3.
Okay, NO3 minus. Understanding? Valency. Have you seen polyatomic ion? Jayavarshini? NO3 minus. So,
yes, sir.
yeah, Ca2 plus. Ca2 plus means what? So calcium will will lose 2 electrons. Calcium will lose 2 electrons. It will turn into Ca2 minus. And nitrate will gain how many electrons? Will gain 1 electron and it will turn into NO3. Okay, guys? Please respond me. So now,
Yes,
so what is
sir.
the formula calcium nitrate? You can write like this. So Ca2 plus NO3 minus. Okay. But exact formula while you are writing, that next class I will teach you tomorrow. So this valency should exchange. So calcium nitrate formula is CaNO3 twice. What is that? CaNO3 twice. All of you pronounce. What is this? CaNO3
NO3
twice. CaNO3 twice we should read. Is it okay now? Please respond me.
sir, like MgO plus twice.
Yeah, NO3 twice. So now one thing I should say, this 2 is for applicable for both the atoms present inside the bracket. Both the atoms present inside the bracket. Okay, Ra? Not for calcium. Not for calcium. It is applicable for what? Nitrogen and as well as nitrogen
Oxygen.
as well as for oxygen. Okay. Manish,
Yes, sir.
everybody understand or not?
Yes, sir.
Please respond.
Sir.
Jyoti,
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
how many nitrogens are there here? How many calciums are there? Can you able to say? How many calciums are there? One
No,
calcium.
one calcium.
There.
One calcium.
Sir.
Nitrogens. 1 into 2. How many? 1 into 2.
2 nitrogen. 2 nitrogen.
1 into 2.
Nitrogen.
2 nitrogens.
Two, sir.
Oxygens.
Oxygen 6,
Three
sir.
into 2.
6, sir. Oxygen 6.
Understand? Now, if any number is present, friend, coefficient, remember, if any number is present, suppose 2HCl, this 2 is for both the ions. Understand, guys? Both the atoms. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I am writing, suppose magnesium chloride, MgCl2, this 2 is applicable only for chlorine. Only for chlorine.
Chlorine.
Please respond me.
Yes, sir.
For example, I will write magnesium hydroxide, MgOH twice. Now, this 2 is applicable for what? Anybody?
Sir, only hydrogen and oxygen.
Only
Oxygen.
hydrogen and oxygen. Bracket.
Only
But
inside
not
the
for
bracket.
magnesium. Okay, guys? Magnesium, how many is here? One magnesium atom.
One, sir.
Oxygen, how many?
And oxygen also,
Two
one, sir.
oxygen.
Hydrogen also.
Two
one.
oxygen, sir.
Oxygen, one
Two,
or
sir.
two? Oxygen,
Two,
two.
sir. Two.
Hydrogens also.
Hydrogen also 2.
Remember,
Two.
this
Sir.
formula, so many will write like this, your friends. OH2. This is wrong. What is this? Wrong. Because
Wrong.
this twice is for both. Understand, Ra? Javarshini? Because here OH, OH is the polyatomic ion. What is that? OH is the
Polyatomic ion.
Polyatomic ion.
not the individual atoms. Understand, Pradosh, Darun, Elmokil?
Sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
sir.
Maitrayan, are you clear, Maitrayan? Tamil Selvan? Laksha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is you have to remember it. Okay. So now if you understand this, then we are going to study what? A very important concept, that is formulae unit of
Formulae mass unit.
write it. Formulae unit of ionic compounds. So molecular mass and ionic formula unit mass, no, nothing difference. Understand, guys? Because charge doesn't matter for us. Understand, Ra? Charge doesn't matter. Why charge doesn't matter? This is what my important question. Why charge doesn't matter? Because electron mass we are not considering. Yes or no? We are considering
Sir.
Sir.
only number of protons and number of
Number of neutrons.
Electron.
Atomic mass means what? Only number of protons and number of neutrons. It is not
Neutrons.
number of electrons. So that is why electrons will lose or gain. Doesn't matter for us. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
That is what. So, but name we are using two different name. If it is a covalent compound, molecular mass. If it is ionic compounds,
Formulae
formula.
mass unit.
That's all. So formula unit of ionic compound. Ionic compounds. Understand,
Compound.
Maitrayan? Very, very important this is. Darun, you also, Darun. Are you clear, Darun? Tamil Selvan? Adarshan? Shruti? Okay. So formula unit of ionic compounds. So let us discuss what is this. So if you'll observe carefully. So as I said, so as we know, if you'll take one salt particle, is it only one sodium and one chlorine is present, or millions of sodium and chlorine is present? Millions of sodium. If you'll take.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
It is
millions.
not single. So single means, is it possible to see? Is it if
No,
some
sir.
one sodium and one
No,
chlorine?
sir.
Is it possible to see? So it is
No,
not
sir.
possible to see by one chlorine and one sodium. So if we'll take our salt, understanding. So if we'll see the crystal structure of the ionic compound like sodium chloride, it is made up of what? A large number of sodium ions and as well as chlorine ions. Correct or not, guys? Please
Sir.
respond me. So that is
Yes,
why
sir.
you can see. Basically, what is the sodium chloride formula? I said, what is sodium chloride formula?
NaCl.
NaCl.
Cl.
We can write Na plus.
Na plus
Cl
Cl
minus.
minus.
But actually, this is only for what? One sodium atoms. Correct or not? Ra?
And one.
One chlorine
Yes,
atom.
sir.
Correct or not?
Chlorine.
Sorry, not atom. Ions. One chlorine ion and one sodium ion. Correct or not? But
Yes, sir.
salt, common salt, understanding. So it is, if you take one small crystal of salt also, it is made up of what? Thousands of sodium and chlorine crystals. Yes or no, guys? Sodium ions and
Yes, sir.
chlorine ions.
Yes.
Will you accept it, guys? That is why if you take a small crystal and if you'll check it, it is containing hundreds of sodium and chlorine ions.
Chlorine ion.
Very large number it is present. That is why usually the exact formula of sodium chloride is Na plus N, Cl minus N. So this is the formula. So N indicates what here? N indicates what? Small n. Please respond me. What is small n indicates? This n indicates number of
Na, number of
L indicate number of chlorine atoms. Understanding is chlorine ions. So
Yes, sir.
you can write like this also. Na plus Cl whole bracket n. What do you mean by n Mukil here? Darun, Jayvarshini?
Number of
Sir, number of
Number of
chlorine and
sodium ions.
chlorine
number
and
of
the number
sodium
of
ions.
Understand, guys? Number of sodium and chlorine ions. This is.
chlorine ion.
Please respond me. That is
Yes,
what
sir.
is happening. So
Sir,
hundreds of, if you'll see, I will show you one picture. So hundreds of sodium ions plus chlorine ions, they will combine together chemically. Then that is only we should call it as common salt. Correct or not? So basically, we should write, whenever we are writing, we have to write NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus whole power n down n. But for our convenient, we are writing what? Only NaCl. That's all. Do you understand, guys? Okay, yeah.
Sure.
So if you'll observe in this
Sir.
picture, you can see. So sodium, chlorine. Next, sodium, chlorine. Next what? Chlorine, sodium, chlorine, sodium, chlorine. So you can see every time the chlorine is sodium is sharing what? One chlorine. It is reacting with the one chlorine atom. Yes or no, guys? One chlorine ion.
Sir.
This is what you have to understanding. So this is like hundreds of chlorine ions and sodium ions will combine together. That is what we should call as. What we should call, Ra? What we should call? Sodium
chloride.
chloride.
So now the formula unit of sodium chloride is what? What is the formula unit of sodium chloride? What is the formula unit of sodium chloride? That is NaCl. What is that? NaCl. Or we can say Na plus Cl minus.
Cl minus
Minus,
whole bracket n.
Plus Cl minus. Understand? Any doubt? Please respond. So
No,
now
No, sir.
No, sir.
this only we should call it as what we should call formula unit mass. What we should call formula.
Formula
unit
unit
mass.
You calculate the. Can you able to see my screen? You can able to see the simplest combination of ions that produces an electrically neutral unit. Electrically neutral unit. So that is only called as a formula unit of the ionic compound.
Ionic compound.
Formula unit of the ionic compound.
Ionic
Understand, Ra? So that is what we should call it as formula unit of ionic compounds. So that mass of this formula unit is called as what? Formula unit mass, or we can say simply formula mass. What we should call? Formula mass.
Formula mass.
So please all of you write. The simplest combination of ions. The simplest combination of ions. The simplest combination of ions. Understand, Ra? The simplest combination of ions that produces an electrically neutral unit. That produces an electrically, what is that? An electrically what, Ra? Neutral unit. Electrically neutral unit is called a, what we should call? Formula unit of the ionic compound. Formula unit of the ionic compound. Is it okay, Jayvarshini? Meeting is going to end. Again, join fastly, everybody. Darun, is it completed, Darun? Tamil Selvan? Understand? That is. Okay. Now, if you'll observe very carefully, for example, you can take. So, formula unit of the ionic compound can be of what? A smallest unit of the compound you can write. So, you don't need to write Na plus whole power down n and Cl minus again n and all. Because it is a very